Time now for the College Football Inquirer with Dan Wetzel.
I'm wondering when the worm turns here on Scott Frost.
Pete Thamel.
You know what college football is? It's a goofball like Will Levis just like slamming a banana with a peel on. Like that's actually why we do this.
With SI's Pat Forney.
Scott Frost stepping on a rake and hitting himself in the face with it yet again.
Here's Pat, Pete, and Dan.
Welcome to the pod. A little over a week to go, gentlemen. Week 0. Coke 0. 5 games will be played next Saturday night, a week from Saturday, depending when you're hearing this. Nebraska, Illinois, Connecticut, Fresno in a backyard brawl. Hawaii, UCLA, UTEP, New Mexico State, which is a backyard brawl. So
that is.
Yeah. And Southern Utah, San Jose State.
It's only 3,041 miles from Yukon to Fresno.
There you go.
You gonna do the coin flip at the UTEP game, Dan, and then chug some of the New Mexico State whiskey that Mario Moshe was supposed to send?
Nobody asked, but nobody asked. But I'm not going to just rudely show up and presume. Well,
I think you should.
I've heard worse ideas. Hand me that money there. Okay. Let me tell you something. You get to West Texas, you just take a guy's quarter, you get shot.
That's right. Better bring your own quarter.
Yeah, you don't just walk up and take someone's money.
Sir, we need to know it's heads or tails before you take the coin.
Yes. Make sure UTEP wins it. Be one thing they can win this year. Anyway, the plays perfectly that we're going to get Cornhuskers in the opener. They should be well prepared since they apparently were practicing all through COVID. Brett McMurphy of the Action Network now. Nebraska has acknowledged the NCAA is looking into its football program. Cornhusker staff allegedly improperly used analysts and consultants with the knowledge of Coach Scott Frost and moved workouts off campus last year when such activities were banned during the pandemic. There's significant video footage confirming the practice violations occurred in the presence of Frost and other assistants. The analysts are, they got all these extra coaches hanging around. They're only allowed to do certain things. They're not allowed to speak to the players, but apparently they were. And then the big one was when the NCAA said no organized workouts due to COVID pandemic during the whole thing. Nebraska relocated its strength workouts to an undisclosed off-campus location to avoid detection at the direction of NU's strength and conditioning staff. Planet Fitness, Lincoln. The undisclosed, I don't know where it was. I love it. Although in Nebraska, they may just have like silos that go down into the ground where you
massive underground weight setup.
Just huge men. Yeah. Intriguing to me is Scott Frost's quote to reporters. Everything we did through COVID was in the best interest and health of our players was in mind, and everything we did was approved by athletic department administration and campus administration. Now they got a new AD, but Frost is basically like, yeah, nobody here cared, so I went right along with it. Pat, thoughts on the never dull Cornhuskers?
It's amazing you can be terrible and never dull. And that's what Nebraska football is. It is remarkable that they keep finding themselves into our podcast, insinuating themselves into the pod. And this one, clearly there was no denial from Scott Frost there. So yeah, we were acting in the best health and interest of our players, and it was all approved. I do know the NCAA and its members institutions took great umbrage at schools that were going around the pandemic rules. That was one of those things that pissed off a lot of people when those sort of things started to come out. And John Duncan, early in the pandemic, I wrote a story about it. I got the quote somewhere where Duncan said, yeah, people are recruiting, people are doing workouts, and we're going after them. So this was something that I think in the spring of 2020 was pretty front burner with NCAA enforcement. And if you look, there are multiple cases where things have happened with this. We got Nebraska football Texas A&M has a basketball case that's been ongoing that was related to them doing workouts during the lockdown. LSU fired an offensive line coach. Nobody has said exactly why, but there's a belief that that was involved with recruiting when you're not supposed to be recruiting during the lockdown. I'm misplacing a fourth example, but there's a number of examples out there of people taking these things, reacting very strongly to them. So this is Scott Frost stepping on a rake and hitting himself in the face with it yet again. I mean, the guy has done one thing at Nebraska so far, and that's screw up. That's it. He hadn't done anything well, and he's found himself, and the whole school and the whole athletic department has found themselves into one controversy after another. This is not helping his job security. Let's put it that way. Now, maybe Trev Alberts is going to rally around him. Maybe they go 8-4 and they say we don't care about anything else. But this is a bad way to start a very important season for him.
Pat, you're just always so nakedly angling to speak to the Husker Touchdown Club to get $500 and a free steak.
Yeah.
I think what has struck me about Scott Frost and Nebraska in this is perhaps it is not a surprise that this arose. This was the buzz around the Big Ten during all of COVID.
Yes, it was.
Scott Frost was the most dismissive of the virus and didn't really hide around the Big Ten that they were going to flout the rules and just keep on training. So this was one of those things that was kind of openly spoken about and understood. Props to the Action Network for finding it out and the NCAA for enforcing. But again, you distill this to its essence. Just like you distill Arizona State and what they're going through with Herm Edwards and his staff to its essence. There's just an element of brazenness and stupidity to it that has you get caught. At Arizona State, the tight ends coach at the time took a tight end recruit who was in town on an illegal visit to a park, videotaped him doing a workout, and then the whole staff watched the illegally videotaped workout. In the annals of stupid things college football staffs have done, that's fairly high. And if you're Scott Frost and you're having these illegal workouts, you probably should not have video evidence of them. So just right there, Scott Frost's buyout, from the math I did the other day, I believe is $20 million. The last 2 years of his $5 million deal aren't fully guaranteed, from my understanding of the contract. We know all buyouts are negotiation points at this point, and I think it was telling. There was a great scene in the Athletic column about this, where they basically said Trev Alberts and Scott Frost pulled a very unwilling and pouty Scott Frost out in front of the media. And he looked like there was a great line in the Athletic story. He looked like an embarrassed teenager who had to go apologize to the neighbor for toilet papering his house. So this was not like, we're about ethics, we're about the right things. This was about like, we were trying to win and we got caught and I had permission.
Kind of sounds like he's setting up. I mean, look, if you have NCAA violations, it can void your contract pretty quick.
Sure.
I have not looked at Scott Frost's contract, but those, will have some clause, but it's almost like he's already setting up it was all approved, pay me my money bit.
True.
I mean, the question here to me is how high up does it go? Because, we talked, I don't know, a podcast or two about how, the NCAA doesn't really have anything to do with Baylor or, some of the huge, the criminal conduct that I think that goes on that shocks and kind of angers people of saying, this is wrong. And then you get to this stuff and people kind of go, well, it's just some guys lifting weights. Well, this is actually what the NCAA should be enforcing. You can't have extra practices in the NFL. You can't have there has to be that's where the level playing field should be. And if everyone's supposed to follow the COVID protocols, that means everybody. The idea that like Nebraska's administration didn't care, I think would be of incredible interest to the rest of the Big Ten, at least, if not everyone else, because it's like, we all know that Scott Frost, I don't know, he didn't care about COVID. He didn't care about anything last year. He was clear about that.
Yes.
But that's why he's not the president of the university, the chancellor of the university. He's not the athletic director. So how high does this go? That's actually what could be pretty interesting. And, I don't know what the penalties would be on stuff like this, but this is the stuff that you need a central organizing thing to sort out. This is actually in the purview of the NCAA, even if you go, hey, some guys are lifting weights, who really cares? Well, they weren't supposed to. So that's the rule. So going to be interesting to see how high this goes up.
You think they should put that that organization body in Indianapolis, Dan? Maybe down the street from like St. Elmo's and the Slippery Noodle?
Yeah, they got $5,000 coming to them. There's going to be a $5,000. I don't know what the penalty will be, but there will be a $5,000 fine.
You think they like ring a bell at the Noodle when one of these stories breaks with the when an investigation starts? Like they're really.
The problem is it takes like 5 years to you know.
Yeah, that's
like
the question. How long does it take the
we're gonna
money
have a
to
good
get
night.
there? Can the Noodle circle the date on the calendar? 6 months from now, we're going to get the money, or whenever. This one's a long way from now, But I think, Dan, to your point, I think it's worth noting Bill Moose's retirement somewhat came out of nowhere. I mean, he was certainly of retirement age, but he retired this summer. I think it was in June. And he had said that I think within the last year had said that he had every intention of fulfilling his contract, which was through the end of 2022. So Scott Frost may know what he's talking about there in terms of, Bill Moose may have been shoved and this might have had something to do with it. If this investigation has been ongoing for a while.
Out of pure muscle memory and habit, Nebraska may not even be savvy enough to actually not pay the people who have broken the rules and leaving. I mean, they paid, I believe there was that great story we talked about last year on the pod. They paid something like $28 million over the prior 15 years in buyout money. So maybe it's just so reflexive at this point. They're like, hey, Bill Moose, here's $3 million. I mean, you were a really good guy. You dragged our football and basketball programs to even further depth. Scott, you just take, it's only $3 million. You can take that. The stories about Bill Moose's retirement. Yeah, I got a story from the Lincoln Journal Star up that basically says Bill Moose indicated his retirement was not entirely his choice. The money trail tells the same story. He's going to be paid nearly $3 million to leave it. So Bill Moose, basically, his tenure at Nebraska was an abject failure, and he got $3 million to go away. You would think if Bill Moose was in charge and if he had anything to do with this and if they knew about it, they would have hesitated before agreeing to pay him the $3 million. And Scott Frost is $20 million. It could get really ugly. I mean, Scott Frost is an iconic Husker. $20 million is $20 million, man. Like you're not giving away $20 million for the good of the school and for Johnny Husker and the tradition and all that stuff. So, and I think we all know Scott Frost a little bit. He is a defiantly stubborn man. I think that would be the best way to say it. Basically, the image of Scott Frost being pouty McPouty, having to go confront his actions, is the least surprising thing I've ever heard. I once heard Scott Frost at Media Day curse out a media member when he was Oregon's receivers coach. Usually at Media Day, you have to be like ready for questions from the media. Oregon had a couple guys suspended for smoking weed before the national title game against Ohio State. And Scott Frost just completely dressed down some guy asking about the receivers and their decision making in a manner that I remember like viscerally cringing when I was there. So he is not a ray of sunshine, and when he is back to the wall, I don't think Scott Frost is going to acquiesce. That is not in his DNA. So this will be an ongoing saga in many, many different ways.
Big year.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely defiantly stubborn is probably maybe even putting it mildly. He can be a very prickly, arrogant kind of guy. But here's another thing though too. Universities tape everything now, and I don't know exactly why, but this is what taping your own practices gets for you. It got Mike Rice fired for throwing basketballs at his players, and good for that at Rutgers. But it also gets you caught red-handed with having analysts or GAs doing things they weren't supposed to do.
Who gets to Indianapolis first, Nebraska football or the slippery noodle money?
I'd go with the noodle money. Yeah. The West is good now. When Nebraska got into the Big Ten, the West was a little bit flotsam and jetsamy. But look at what Northwestern's done. Look at where Minnesota is right now. Wisconsin's in a really good place as a program. They got a lot of traffic in front of them. Yeah, Iowa's awesome.
Iowa has a winning record every year.
Surprised if Iowa wins the West. Will not be surprised at all.
Nope. They are. Iowa is consistently Iowa. There are no down years at Iowa in the last decade or so under Kirk Ferentz. So, yeah, they've got a lot of traffic in front of them. And really, right now, if you're a Nebraska fan, you are 9-17 in the Big Ten with Scott Frost. You are 12-20 overall, and I'm sure you can craft hope, in preseason. But boy, I don't feel a lot of hope there.
Week from Saturday, the game takes on even more meaning when they travel to Illinois.
Have fun walking in from the parking lot, Pat, seeing all your Husker fan friends.
We'll bond.
Yeah.
There was also the note in the McMurphy story that Frost was interested in dropping this year's game against Oklahoma, which is the 50th anniversary of the 1971 game of the century. I just didn't want to play Oklahoma, and for competitive reasons. He was saying, when their home game, it's better for recruiting, whatever. Like, you're 4 years in, one home day. Yeah, your recruiting better be going a little better.
If you're 4 years in at $6 million a year and you're trying to duck a rivalry game like that's a pretty bad sign of where your program stands.
So Nebraska fans, and I know this is almost cliche, but they really are this incredible group of fans, right? They fill a game, they show up, they're happy, they let balloons off, they cheer the other team. Like, they're famously
they cheer. We can discuss that, but go ahead.
Okay. Well,
Pat's like,
on the list
my
of
email
fandoms.
inbox says otherwise.
They'll rip you.
Well,
They'll rip
you
us.
can finish your point, and I'll tell you.
I would say they're low. I'm wondering when the worm turns here on Scott Frost, because in the end, they're a little more like loyal to their coach than maybe most. And I just wonder, like, at what point, I don't know whether it's some of them are going to be, troubled by the end, say some won't, but how many sit there and go, what do you mean we're ducking Oklahoma? Like, are we really just, like, we don't want to play it? Like, shouldn't the coach, and how the hell does the team feel when you're reading about how the coach doesn't want to play Oklahoma and you got to play Oklahoma in a few weeks? Like, it just good. I don't know. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah,
you can yell at the Husker fans. I was trying to be nice. This is what I get.
Well, I wonder too. I mean, look, they are incredibly loyal. They're unbelievably loyal fans. They have that really long sellout streak that I think some people have been wondering whether it will continue this year. But they're among the best fans in the history of college football in terms of backing their team. Reputation that they are so classy and respectful of the visiting team. As long as they're beating the visiting team, that's the case. And I was there when I was in school, and I watched them, applauding Missouri for coming off the field after they beat Missouri 48-15. Good job, Missouri. Good luck the rest of the year. And then I remember being at home and watching over Thanksgiving when Oklahoma went in there and beat them, and Keith Jackson, the tight end, was great, and Oklahoma's strutting off the field. And guess what? There's stuff coming out of the stands at the Sooners because the Sooners beat them. So it's a little bit selective about exactly how magnanimous they are to the opposing team.
I give them credit for keeping showing up. The product has not dictated the loyalty, and they have maintained the loyalty. So I give them credit for that. I think a lot of them probably hate listen our podcast, so I appreciate that about them too. But they're a really good fan base. I wish, and it's better for college football if Nebraska is good and relevant. They have certainly been patient as they have churned through some really bad hires and forgettable errors. I mean, they've had, if you have to do a combination of bad AD hires and bad coaching hires there, it's been the incompetence and ineptitude when you look at the buyout money has been a pretty fantastic combination there in Lincoln.
All right. Speaking of Oklahoma, BetMGM says the Sooners are now the betting favorite. They are plus 800 right now to win their first title. They have received 23.2% of the money has come in. They have the most money. Let's put it that way. Not the favorite. They have the most money bet on them at plus 800. Alabama is plus 260. They have 19.5%. If you put Georgia is gone from plus 600 to plus 800 after the injuries to Tyke Smith, their defensive back, and tight end Darnell Washington. One of my favorites, Eric Gilbert, tight end, is not. He is taking some time off. George Pickens, of course, the wide receiver, was injured last year. As Sully likes to point out, they have a very thin and unproven receiving core. So I don't know who's catching these passes. So they have dropped back. Georgia has received 17.3% of the money. And then Ohio State at plus 600 has received 8.5% of the money, 7% of the bets. Thoughts on OU? Everyone running OU. The value pick here? You really think Oklahoma can do this, or is it just the value?
Well, first of all, this moment is a small triumph for Sully because he finally got the discussion of the Georgia receiving corps on the pod. He had been lobbying Dan for months to discuss this, and now we have. So there you go. Sully has planted his flag there. Big moment. As for Oklahoma, I mean, you look at the schedule, and they probably have the best road to get to the playoff. What they do when they get to the playoff is the next big thing. You know, their non-conference schedule is Tulane, Western Carolina, and Nebraska. 3-0, right? Unless something goes completely wrong. Then conference play, it looks to me like there are two teams well ahead of everyone else in that conference, and that's them and Iowa State. Iowa State has to come to Norman. Now, Iowa State has won there before, and Iowa State beat them last. They split last year. Still, it sets up well. They've got to beat Kansas State, which for some reason has been an inexplicable problem for them the past 2 years, but I'm going to bet that it's not a problem this year, that they can beat Kansas State. Texas in Dallas, you know, big game on paper. We'll see if it's a big game in person. Texas generally rises to that occasion and plays really well, but we'll see about that. I mean, if you're looking at a schedule where you're just going to say, yep, 12-0 is very much right there in front of them, Oklahoma is it. Now, they've got to get to the playoff and not get trampled. The last two times they've been there, we were utterly embarrassed by LSU, and then they were run off the field by Alabama. So, and then they lost the time before that to Georgia in a great game in double overtime. They've got to get there and then be able to beat a quality SEC or Big Ten team or Clemson. So the proof will be in the pudding at the end for them.
First of all, I want to congratulate Sully on getting the Georgia receiver conversation onto the podcast. I assume he hasn't been this excited since Tennessee was up at halftime against Georgia. I don't know if we were able to get him a banner to hang for that, but Sully, I hope you have that same adrenaline surge coursing through your body right now.
So it's quite the 15 minutes.
Yes. As for Oklahoma, they are what you'd call in horse racing the value play right now. They are not the favorite, but that's where the money is going because people see they can get a little, they can stretch their money a little bit. And I respect that. I certainly appreciate Pat's point about the non-conference schedule. So I obviously am really in on Lincoln Riley. I'm in on the offense. I am not ready to coronate Spencer Rattler yet. He's excellent. All right. He's very good. But just assuming he's going to be the Heisman winner and the number one pick, I just need to see a little bit more from him. The weapons are there. The case for Oklahoma, for me, starts with the defense. You look at what they have back and what they've brought in, and this is the best Oklahoma defense personnel-wise since Bob Stoops was there. Alex Grinch now entering year 3. He did not have a lot to work with. He's completely reset and rebuilt the culture there. Grinch is sort of a straightforward, square chin, look ahead guy. And I really feel like he has had a slow, gradual impact that will really, truly be felt this year. I shouldn't say slow, but it was turning a battleship there. The defense was horrible. Nick Benito, the redshirt junior defensive end, pass rush specialist, is a guy the NFL really likes, and he's going to be the face of that defense. Pat Fields is kind of your stately captain. He's been obviously on a lot of the NCAA committees that go around and set the rules, and he's been a great voice for that program there. I am optimistic about Oklahoma, but I do think there has been a consistent letdown in the regular season this year, and can they afford one this season and still make the playoff? I think that's the question, because beating Kansas State's been a problem. Beating Iowa State's been a problem, and they're going to have to likely beat Iowa State twice, right? That's our that is our Ames Tapwater theory.
Yeah, that's the working premise there. And
when I predicted last year after the bowl, you can go back and listen on the pod, that the Oklahoma hype train would go off. They would win the offseason. I had it right away. I did not think 23% of the money would be on Oklahoma.
Yeah, you did call that.
Ongoing saga, Will Levis, Kentucky football quarterback. We have updates. He's clearly my favorite player right now. Preseason Heisman favorite for me. In his a very funny guy. Clearly got some personality to him. See whether he can play. In his Kentucky bio, he listed that his career goal was to be a stay-at-home dad married to a wife that makes 6 figures.
I mean, why stop at 6? Why not go to 7?
Yeah, right. Don't sell it short. Go for 7.
Well, it's Kentucky. Kentucky. It's like you don't sit there and say, "Well, goal is to win the night." It's like we want to go to a good bowl game. His video of him eating the banana with the peel on has gone everywhere. It is truly viral. If you missed it somehow, he took a rotting banana, very, very browned up banana, that he said it was at his girlfriend's house. And he decided to film it to get some content out there. Got to get the content. And made a TikTok of him eating the banana peel on. He basically eats it like a Snickers bar. He just chomps down and it's gone. So now he's tweeting back and forth with Chiquita Banana. So I also predicted. Chiquita is no longer in Cincinnati, by the way. I heard it would move to Carolina for tax break purposes. Some bitter Ohioan was upset about that. Probably lost his job at Chiquita. So sorry about that. Former Chiquita Banana employee who listens to the pod. He also put this out there. 4 fruits you can and should eat from skin to pit. We're doing it wrong, according to Will Levis, Pat. We are doing it wrong by just eating the parts of the fruit that normally you would think. Like, I'm going to peel the banana and then eat the inside. Are you ready for the 4?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear.
Okay. The banana. That's 1.
Yeah.
Okay. By eating the peel, you get an additional 78 milligrams of potassium.
Okay.
Okay. Is your potassium low? Or either of you two need some potassium?
Actually, it's funny. I went and swam yesterday with Brooke and I cramped in my right leg and she said you need more potassium. So
we have a
I need to
solution.
peel.
Will Levis himself. You're right there in Kentucky. Follow the leader of QB1 down with the CATS cats. He also said that his the brown spots in the banana, he's not afraid of them. They're afraid of him. Hashtag menace to society. He said that banana tasted like banana bread. I don't think whoever bakes banana bread in the Will Levis household does not know how to make banana bread.
Clearly.
All right, next one. The kiwi.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Got to eat
seen
that
people
furry,
eat kiwi with the fur on.
the furry brown skin. You got to eat that. You're
Ugh.
missing nutrients. Yes.
Fur should never be eaten.
I don't know.
I'm fairly furry. I don't want anyone eating me.
Okay.
I have seen people eat kiwis that way. So
Really?
Eat the whole thing. It includes vitamin E, folate, polyphenols, and it has an antioxidant effect. Okay, there you go. All right, this one's going to be somewhat controversial. The orange.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, you do the orange zest, like lemon zest. Like you can.
Come on. Yeah, you can
You ever
do
see
the
that?
zest, but you don't eat the peel.
The zest. I didn't know about the zest until the Food Network. They're always doing it on the Food Network. The orange peel, I think, is it's called the pith. Anyway, you can they're saying you could also cook it. You can candy it.
Candy is good. I gotta say, we did that. That was one of our quarantine
Candied orange
projects over
peel?
here. Candied orange peel is pretty good.
Really?
That's some real East Tennessee stuff right there, man. You're bringing that.
Got to preserve stuff up in the mountains, Dan.
Got to. It's going to be a tough winter. You take that to L.A. All right. And then finally, this one. The watermelon.
No.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yes. The watermelon, obviously, you got the inside is great, but the thick rind not only serves the convenient handle for a juicy watermelon slice, it's also a source of additional nutrients such as amino acid citrulline. See?
Maybe if you pickle it.
This story here, this is on the Today Show's website. They cite something called Watermelon Board, which is a website that represents the 800 watermelon growers.
Of course.
Watermelon Board. Watermelon.org.
They used to vote in the
they got
Harris
it all.
poll.
A&M, number 1.
They do acknowledge that it's not the best, easiest thing to eat, but they recommend pickling it, blending it into a smoothie, or used as like a coleslaw, chopped up, or in stir fries.
I recommend putting it in the composter, but
I don't know. So who knows what's next? The beauty of this podcast is you never know where we're going. And next thing you know, you're on the watermelon board. It's like when I found out about the underground toaster enthusiasts.
Yeah, now we're on to big watermelon, the lobbying
Marissa
interests.
Lawrence has been using her toaster on social media.
Has she? Okay.
Yes, she says it's very good. She's shown how to do it. Takes longer to program it than to actually toast the bagel.
I was going to say, if you have to do a how-to video on how to use the toaster, I'm just not sure I'm interested.
Tebow's got plenty of time on his hand now. He can learn that.
Tebow can go over to Trevor's house and toast. Yeah.
So anyway, that ongoing saga is
so like Will Levis. He really is. He's going to be the zero sample Heisman winner. Right. We'll get to the small sample Heisman winners once we start playing, but with no sample, he's absolutely the winner. But I have major problems going back to why you would eat a banana that's that old, personally. On the banana spectrum, I'd rather him be closer to green than brown.
Dan uses the pod to sell Epic Athlete books. Pat uses the pod to audition for to be a color guy on the Science Channel or the Nature Channel. So having banana eating hot takes is really right on brand. This is my only thought of Will Levis is thank God for Will Levis, right? We've been talking about television contracts. We've been talking about COVID. Yeah. We've been talking about whatever. You know what college football is? It's a goofball like Will Levis who's slamming a banana with a peel on. That's actually why we do this. It is not to discuss constitutional conventions of the NCAA. No, college sports are fun. Thank you for reminding us of that.
Amen.
Will Levis.
Exactly. He's like, I was over with my girlfriend. She was going to throw out this banana. I was like, hold on. I'm going to eat that. She's like, you're going to eat that? And he's like, I'll film it. Next thing you know, right?
Yeah.
He's giving us 2 podcasts worth of content. Yeah. I don't know. Great stuff by Will Levis. All right. In other pressing and important news, Alabama cornerback JaQuincy McKinstry, better known as Kool-Aid. He is officially on the roster as Kool-Aid McKinstry. And he is as you would expect, used this nickname to land. First off, I don't know how he even got this Twitter handle, but his nickname is his Twitter handle is @Kool-Aid. What was Kool-Aid doing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How did he outflank them to get that?
I don't know.
The PR guy for Kool-Aid was at Scott Frost's secret workouts, and he wasn't paying attention.
He has an NIL deal now with Kool-Aid. So, right, this is it.
Awesome. You could see that one coming from space, right? The only thing is now, the amazing thing, I wonder how much money is tied up in Alabama players who haven't done anything yet. I mean, it doesn't mean they won't. Like Kool-Aid McKinstry's supposed to be the best cornerback recruit in the country, and he may start as a freshman at Alabama. But Bryce Young, the quarterback too, who there was speculation that he could be making up to $1 million or certainly high 6 figures. He didn't take any meaningful snaps last year. Now he's in line to, and he may turn out to be awesome. But wow, there's a lot of dollars being earned based on recruiting prowess right now for guys in Tuscaloosa.
Do you regret not naming Brooke Speedo, Pat? Because you could have, once she cashed in on her Olympic medal, she could have definitely streamlined a deal.
Yeah, streamlined it too. That's a good swimming pun there, Pete.
Yes, we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah, we missed an opportunity there.
Kool-Aid said he got his nickname at birth from his grandmother. His grandma said, I came out smiling.
Oh,
there you go.
That's kind of sweet. So, can you cut in the Kool-Aid oh, yeah. When the guy bursts through the wall with, double fisting the pitchers?
They still do that commercial?
Pat, we're in trouble.
Kool-Aid
McKinstry himself did tweet, oh, yeah, when he signed the deal.
The NIL data is continuing to come in from company Influencer. The average transaction value is $923. So the average deal people are getting is $923. Not bad. Can be as little as 0 in cash value to low 6 figures. 53% of all transactions were reported by athletes playing sports outside of football, men's and women's basketball. So, as we said, there's opportunities. 34% were football players. but 47% are just are other. So so far has not caused Armageddon.
Right. This is which, again, to Pete's point, it's fun. To the other point, it's ingenuity. It's college American ingenuity. And to Dan's original point in all of this is it's not going to cause the ruination of college athletics.
All right, Pete, you were at Ohio State the other day. Good story on Yahoo Sports. What did you see from the Buckeyes that makes you think they can, or whatever they're going to come up with?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not a surprise Ohio State's good, right? We've become pretty accustomed to that. I guess the thing that struck me most about this iteration of Ohio State, and I didn't go to practice there last year in the summer, but I probably maybe 6 out of the last 8 years have gone to a camp at Ohio State, and not only quality, but the quantity of quality young talent was what struck me about seeing Ohio State in person on Monday. I've been there. I remember being at practice 3 years ago, and Mark Pantoni, their personnel guy, and I are standing watching a defensive line drill, and he's like, "See that's Chase Young. He's from DeMatha. He's going to be a top 10 pick someday." It's like, okay. And that's J.K. Dobbins over there. He's going to be, he's going to be a really good player here. He's going to, be a first round pick type guy. So you kind of, I've seen these iterations. I always try to stand with Mickey Marotti, the longtime strength coach, who's one of the great characters. He was at Notre Dame a million years ago. He was with Urban at Florida. Then came up to Ohio State. He's trained easily over 100 draft picks, and is kind of one of those like no frills. He's like old D3 fullback, old guard weightlifting guys. And Mickey's not one for hyperbole because he's trained a lot of these guys. And basically what struck him, and I wrote about in a column, was just like, he said the number of guys who are ready to play for them this year are really strong. They have arguably the two best defensive end recruits in the country, in Jack Sawyer and the guy they're calling JT Tiamalolo. I think I have that right. That was one of my goals, was to get to pronounce him right, the big defensive end recruit from Seattle. The guy who struck me the most, a little bit of a personal tie here, was Marvin Harrison Jr. I went to college with Marvin Harrison Sr. His senior year at Syracuse was my freshman year. Here's the thing about Marvin Harrison. He's one of the great receivers in the history of the NFL. He did not scare you walking off the bus. Does that make sense? Like, Marvin Harrison was like a pretty, build-wise, was a fairly, he was not Randy Moss or one of these guys. I mean, he was 5'11", 6 foot, just a regular-looking NFL player. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is a 6'3", rocked-up, grown man. Harrison isn't even the best freshman receiver they have. That's Emeka Egbuka. And it's getting to the point where if you are not a 3-and-done caliber receiver at Ohio State, you're probably not going to play. I mean, that room is really humming at a level that's as high as any in the country. Obviously, the Alabama receiver room has been very, very good. The LSU receiver room has been very, very good. But they've really gone national, and just it's Pantoni called it the best class in school history. Mickey's a little bit, he doesn't want to coronate any freshmen yet, so he was a little bit tapped the brakes on it, but there was as much of excitement over the quantity of quality players, guys who are going to help them now, guys who are going to be draft picks later. They got a left tackle from Houston who won't really start this year, but they're really excited about. I was surprised that, again, they recruit really well. They had the highest, according to Rivals, star ranking of anyone. I guess just seeing the quantity in the flesh. My quick take on who they will be this year: C.J. Stroud appears in line to be the starter. Nobody said that out loud yet, but Ryan said on Monday that he separated himself from the field. And I mean, the way they are conducting themselves now, they have a great offensive line, some really good backs. Travion Henderson was the other freshman who everyone there agrees is going to be special. He's from Virginia. He's one of the top tailback recruits in the country. I don't see Ohio State going away from the aggressive pass game identity that they've had under Day, that they had through Haskins and Fields. They're still going to be getting the ball to these receivers, even though Stroud isn't the caliber of quarterback as the last couple of guys I've had. Yeah, right. He's young, and they will ease him in. The line is arguably the best in the country, so he's going to have time. But they're not going to take the foot off the gas at Ohio State. They have an offensive identity, and they're going to stick to that. Ruckert, the tight end, is one of the 5 best, certainly in the country. So defensively, there's some more questions. They have a lot of talent on that D line, young talent, old talent. Zach Harrison. The secondary will be much improved, both depth wise and they've just got some more guys there and some good young talent. Is Denzel Burke, freshman from Arizona, was a buzzy guy. So look, the Buckeyes are good, and the column I wrote was about how they're chasing Alabama, and I really think like if they are going to be in that rare air where Alabama is, this class is going to be a cornerstone of that of that chase. This 2021 freshman class.
They should have a chance to beat them. It's funny, Pete, you used the phrase chasing Alabama because that's literally what they were doing the last time we saw anybody play. It's like Alabama's just leaving scorch marks all over the field. And part of that was the fact that Alabama put them in matchup situations where their linebackers, who were all seniors and great players, but they had to try to cover people who were so much faster than them. I'm wondering, like, about the linebacker turnover. We've got new linebackers, but they might be more athletic linebackers. How's that particular position looking? Because that's where you get, you had your Pete Warner, your Tuff Borland, your Baron Browning, who were really good players, but they also weren't uber athletes. That's why they were seniors in college, because they probably would have gone to the NFL earlier if they weren't. But so where does that position look, do you think, for Ohio State?
The buzz guys there were Tommy Eichenberg, who's a redshirt sophomore out of the Cleveland area. I believe he's the younger brother of Liam Eichenberg, the Notre Dame lineman. He was actually a flip from Boston College. They got him late. He wasn't particularly like one of these 5-star buzz guys, and there were a lot of positivity around him. And I think he'll see a lot of snaps this year. Again, I don't think he is some freakazoid who's going to be a first-round pick, but they were really high on him. And then there's a sophomore named Cody Simon, who got a bunch of snaps, who's a sophomore, who they were really high on. So that position's going to look a lot different. They don't play a ton of linebackers. They're kind of more they're more sort of a 4-2-5 now. Terhada Mitchell has been a productive guy for them, but he's been a little bit inconsistent. So he'll obviously see a lot of snaps too. But that position will look radically different, Pat. I do think it will be athletically charged up a little bit, but I don't think it's overwhelming.
All right, we got one more name, image, and likeness story here, and this is the ongoing chicken wars and how they have taken over college football. So we have 3 different companies have signed players. Bojangles has North Carolina's Sam Howell and Clemson's DJ Uiagalelei.
Ooh-ee.
I don't think I did that right. But close enough. Ungo. I'm going to get there. And then finally, Zaxby's, spunky little Zaxby's, steps up and takes JT Daniels from Georgia. So we have all of this. Who is going to win this chicken war with these? Who do you like here in terms of their pitchman, not necessarily the quality of the sandwich?
I'm sorry. I was responding to a text there. So are
you saying there was something else more interesting than me bringing up the chicken sandwich wars, Pat?
There's really nothing more interesting than that. Okay. However, I did have a somewhat pressing need to respond to that text.
Okay.
But does Popeyes have anybody? Did we just
slitting it out? Yeah, step it up, Popeyes. I think you got the best sandwich, but they
got the best sandwich, so they need to. I mean,
maybe they should just sponsor a podcast.
Yeah, they're getting too much free publicity from us. They don't need some college quarterback propping their sandwiches up. We might as well be a chicken podcast that occasionally mentions college football. They know the free pub is coming.
They clearly do. I mean, we've been too easy on Popeyes. They need to step up. They need to sponsor the pod or grab a quarterback, one or the other. But I mean, if you're breaking it down, like who's going to get their product to the national championship game? I mean, JT Daniels got a chance. I know now, Sully, we have chronicled the receiver issues there. I still think Georgia has a very good chance to end up in the playoff and possibly winning the national championship. Obviously, Clemson has a great chance as well. Their schedule may set up as well or better than Oklahoma's, but I think Zaxby's may have made the value play there.
Sully, who's got the best sandwich of those 3?
I do not know, actually. I've not been back to have the new Zaxby's sandwich, so I really can't say on the record who has the best one, but I have.
How about off the record? Can you answer off the record?
I have some reports. I have some people on the ground in Zaxby's country said that it's better than Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. So
I've had it.
sources.
They're wrong. They're wrong.
Sully
Sources close
saying
to the
Zaxby's-
breading. Yeah.
But here's the thing with Zaxby's. It can be hit or miss. You can get a sandwich that's been sitting underneath the lamp a little too long, or the fries a little too long. You know, Raising Cane's doesn't miss. That thing is fresh. It is good. Same thing with Chick-fil-A. Zaxby's needs to step up their game a little bit with the freshness. But it's still
Is that
pretty
just
good.
your Georgia bias coming through, Sully? Like your anti-Georgia
No,
bias?
I grew up in North Georgia, basically. So there's no bias there. I love Zaxby's.
Okay. Yeah.
You know
I
what
can't
this
get
tells
there with
me?
you. I tried the Zaxby's sandwich, whenever it was, last year or something, when we were in the wallowing through the pandemic summer, and it didn't do it for me. I'm sorry.
The most disappointing one was the McDonald's one. Just
Yeah, that was a bust.
horrible effort. Fading power. It's like Rome. This tells me we need this season to start. And so fortunately next week it will. And we can be making games and making fun of coaches. That's enough. We've talked about bad bananas and come on. Kool-Aid. All right.
Next week, we will have strident opinions on UConn Fresno.
Well, let's do it.
We're picking all the bad games next week. I can't wait to pick all the bad games.
Every game. All
Wait till
five
I
of
start calling random Conference USA secondary coaches to get like a UTEP breakdown.
This is where Pete may need to be reined in when he's going deep on Southern Utah against San Jose. We might need a buzzer sound for Sully here.
Southern Utah
I was talking to their
doesn't have a nickel
assistant strength
corner
coach.
pad. You know that.
All the strength coach Pete knows, and he doesn't break the story that Nebraska's out there working out in a secret undisclosed gym. All right. Come back next week. Maybe the show will be better. Or maybe not. Talk to you then.